All right, lads, welcome back to me podcast, Cheaper Than Therapy. Mick Thomas here. I know you're still in quarantine. I know you're all on lockdown. And as promised, I want to keep turning these podcasts out, churning them out for you. Any questions, comments, concerns, email, send it to my Instagram, Mick Thomas Comedy. Joining me tonight, for this extra episode is my good buddy, Mr. Dan Barry. All right, Dan.
Hey.
You might want to bring that up a little bit.
I don't know if I want to.
You might want to.
I'm holding... So Mick has a big audio tech engineer that Mick Thomas is. I'm holding a lavalier on a chopstick. And if you don't know where the lavalier is, it's one of those little lapel microphones that you hide on, people when they're on TV. And so now I'm holding my lapel microphone via a chopstick that he no doubt has been reusing. It's not like this is...
well, it is. This is the second episode with this system because I usually do the podcast by myself, as you know, but I don't have anybody over the studio.
Did you Lysol this chopstick?
I did, actually. I've been very, very clean.
Good.
The last guy, Mike Calcagno, was very clean. I made sure when he came over. So how you doing, man? How's the lockdown treating you?
Oh, I'm miserable.
I know.
I'm an actual extrovert, right? So I'm somebody who needs to go out and have...
Are you really? I thought you'd be the opposite.
No, so so I travel about 80% of a year for work and for shows and for everything else. And so I like my week or two home, but then I need to be on the road. Okay. And all of my road stuff has been canceled for the foreseeable future, at least until June. And I'm freaking out. So I cleaned my garage. I redid this entire room. I can't even describe to you. I bought floating shelves that I have to find some place to put in this room. This is
a time for productivity, though. I think instead of people complaining, which you should, by the way. It's horrendous, right? It's fucking horrendous. We were talking about that earlier about how people's finances are going to get hit. But from a comics point of view. Now you're also a very, very established professional wrestler.
Yeah, professional wrestler. Established would be a loose word to use, but yes.
But I got a huge fan base, man.
I have a fan base. I got a huge fan base, yes.
But I think this is the time for everybody in the creative world, wrestling, comedy. You're also a very, very funny stand-up comic. I think if you're not being creative of some sort, then you need to quit what you were doing.
I think there needs to be, this is... I'm going to use the word traumatic, but I don't... All right. It's not necessarily it's not to the extent that when you hear the word traumatic, people almost always associate it with some horrible event. Right. But this is traumatic for people whose lives are based around not only financially being supported by performance, but then also the physical art of performing. Mm-hmm. So for me, my biggest thing is right now I feel like I have nothing to do. And I have things to do. It's not that I don't, but I feel like I have nothing to do. And that's traumatizing to me to the extent that I think it took me a few days to get into this mode of all right, you got to buckle down now. You got to actually get your shit together and, start putting stuff together. Once the coronavirus thing broke out, I had a story. I was talking to Mike Toohey, he's another comedian out here, about how the idea, I didn't know what to do, so I just went on stage for 6 minutes and started talking. Okay. And that helped me kind of get over, because I think you knew on Wednesday, how depressed I was. Yeah. When I was supposed to go to Ireland for 5 shows, and they all got canceled, and the flight got canceled, and I found out at 9:00 when Donald Trump made the announcement that we couldn't get back from Europe, and there was a whole thing.
The first part. You know what I was watching with my son? I was watching Lego Masters. I love that show.
It seems like a good show. I've never actually watched it.
Have you seen the clips for it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable because my son's a Lego freak, right? So it's something he's really into, and it's a show that finally has a TV show based on his passion, right? So I watch Lego Masters with my son every week. And the ending, who got sent home, it's a typical every week someone gets sent home bullshit, right? And he got...
Imagine not being good enough with Legos. That kids' toy. That was the horrific pirate ship. Where's the mast, you dipshit? Get the fuck out of here. You're going home.
But what happened was it cut off. I went, uh-oh. and in comes Donald Trump.
Oh man!
Right, and then you're the first person I thought of when he said that. And you go, you're on the plane, and I'm not even going to read out the text message, but tell me what, like, because we only spoke about this through text. I still haven't got the full story of this.
So, all right, so I'll break it down for you. So I had 3 comedy shows, 2 wrestling shows in Dublin this past weekend that were scheduled. So I was going to fly out Wednesday night, get in Thursday morning, and then just kind of relax, do my shows, etc. The flight was at 8:20. That's what I was scheduled for. But a flight from Santiago, Chile was pushed back. So I ended up boarding at 8:20. I happen to have status at airlines, so I sat in the good section of the plane.
You fly so much.
I literally fly every week.
Yeah.
So I was in the good section of the plane. I felt like a pretty big shot, like no big deal. I put on my noise-canceling headphones, and I started watching Frozen 2 because I'm an adult. And
how shit is that movie?
Honestly,
dog shit. I
watched up to the song "Into the Unknown," and that's a great song. She nails it on that one song, and then after that, I didn't see anything else.
Way too many songs in that movie. Unnecessary. Way too long. You know me. I got a Disney tattoo. I'm as you are a huge Disney fan. And I'm very biased. Like, I very rarely give Disney the thumbs down. This movie was dog shit.
Right. I think that they didn't realize the success Frozen would have, and then they had to make Frozen 2.
Yeah. It's like the Jagged Little Pill, right? Alanis Morissette, the Fall of Her Jagged Little Pill.
There's a couple of good songs in there. Anyway, so I'm on the plane. I have my headphones on. Into the Unknown's playing. Great. I still think a great song.
Sure.
Just kind of enjoying it, trying to figure out what's going on. All of a sudden, the captain comes on, and I don't mean to steal your voice, but he goes, folks, at this moment, I think you know more than we do. And I was like, that's a weird way to start a sentence. So I took my headphones off to like look around to see what was going on, to like maybe ask the person next to me. And as I turned around, mayhem.
Now, were there many people on the flight?
Yeah, it was sold out.
Okay.
It was sold out. It was sold out in that moment.
What airline was it?
Delta.
Delta, okay.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking around, and people are pulling their bags off the thing. And so I go to my phone, and I turn off airplane mode. I had a text from you. I had a text from my mom, my brothers, like everyone I've ever met sent me a message like, are you on the fucking plane? Because the door closed that plane at 9 o'clock. And then we just hadn't left.
You hadn't pulled out?
Hadn't pulled out yet.
Okay.
And I was kind of like, I guess that they're still doing something or loading the plane or like whatever. And I was kind of ignoring it because I'd also been drinking because it was an overnight flight. You know, I'm on a flight that's landing me at 7 a.m. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna drink so I can fall asleep on this fucking plane. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, whatever. I read through, and all of a sudden I start seeing the messages, and somebody said, Donald Trump says you can't get home from Europe. You can only get home from the UK. So initially, people started sending me messages like, well, if you can get to the UK, you can get home. But that doesn't actually help because it's not impossible to get from Ireland to the UK. But
a lot of people do, not to cut you off, a lot of people think that Ireland is the UK.
That's the thing. Is
right?
I think
a lot of people think that when it's really not.
I think if I can be frank, I'm not going to make this political. Okay. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump thought Ireland was the UK, which is why he said what he said. Because he failed to mention that Ireland was not on that list.
Right.
He only said Europe can't come over. He said if you're in Europe, you can't come home. And if you're in the UK, you can. So people are like, oh, good, the UK, you can come home. So they're like, oh, you can just fly to the UK and then you'll be able to get home. And it's like, well, that doesn't actually help.
Almost drive up to Belfast.
Yeah, well, there was no direct
airport,
flight.
You can take the ferry.
I can take the ferry over. There's ways to get over to England. But the problem is now I'm incurring more costs, right?
Sure.
And I'm getting this information thrown at me. And the lady from Delta comes on and she literally walks through the cabin and goes, ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you if you're going to be able to get home, but if you're not staying on this plane, you have to get off. That's exactly what she said to me. Jesus. And I'm just staring at her like, wait, can you just walk in and say that? Like, I don't know that. So I had to make a split decision. So because I have status at Delta, I'm able to like change my flight to the next day, which is what I do. I initially changed it to Thursday. Okay. I mean, grab my bag.
Okay. So how did you change the flight? You did it on your phone?
It automatically do it. Like if you have status because you want to remain on this flight, I say change and it moves me to the next flight. So I go to get off and I grab my overhead and I'm like, I'm going to leave. I have like 2 bags in stowage also, so I have to go collect those. So they go, oh, we can't just have you walk off the plane. You have to get in line. I'm like, what do you mean you have to get in line? Like, we have to check you off the plane so we know how many souls are on board. And I'm like, souls? Why did we say the word souls? Yeah. I know that's what they say, but like in that moment, you're like, why did you just say souls? You're not the pilot. You're not talking to air control. You're talking to...
Where are we going that I don't know that we're referring to souls now?
You're talking to a guy wearing a shining t-shirt and sweatpants and socks and sandals because he wanted to sleep on the fucking plane. Like, I wasn't...
So I have not soul status.
Yeah, I have no soul. I'm a comedian. It's gone. It's left my body. So I walk and we get in the line, right? And it's like it's a decent line because of the 240 seats or whatever it was.
Right.
130 people got off.
Fuck.
Because they didn't know they were going to get home, and that's the concern, right? So I'm number like 12 on this line because I was like, well, I'm getting off the plane. I just got off the plane.
Sure.
Some woman.
You had no bags to check, right?
I had 2 check bags, but I had one bag over my head, which was like so like whenever you travel for a show, you carry on your show clothes, and then you stow anything else.
Sure.
So I carried on all my show clothes, and then all my other stuff was stowed because that's my theory of how I should travel. So I'm standing there, and there's like a 65-year-old, like 2 days from retirement Delta employee who's literally just trying to like organize the line on the jet bridge now. Because the jet bridge is where they don't want people sitting on the plane. They're trying to get people off the plane so they can get the plane off.
Right.
In the air, basically. This woman comes off, and she is livid.
How old is she?
She's, I'm going to call her Karen.
Okay.
You know immediately what this woman looks like when I say that.
White woman,
blonde hair with that little bob thing that they do. So anyway, she starts going like, this is fucking believable, and she's like finger pointing, and she's yelling at this 65-year-old woman. So here's the thing: I completely understand somebody being upset in this moment. I generally do. I don't understand someone being upset with a Delta employee.
Okay.
Delta did not make that call. Delta found out when we found out, which is what all the airlines said was, hey, like we found out the minute he said it. We didn't even know when we booked the flight. So a woman behind her goes, ma'am, you know, she doesn't know what's going on. And the lady, Karen, turns around and goes, if I wanted you to answer the question, if I wanted you to speak, I would have asked you the fucking question. And she turned around.
All right.
So now, and Mick knows where this is going because he knows who I am.
A
mildly inebriated. And when I say mildly, an inebriated Dan Barry just started off nice. I went, hey, get in the back of the line. That's all I said because I wasn't going to try. And so she starts this whole like, I don't need to hear it from you. So you get the finger pointing. Right. So I said, lady, you are an insignificant nobody. Get in the back of the fucking line. None of us are going to Ireland. So now the people around me are getting like really uncomfortable, right? Like it's very stressful.
But they're secretly going fucking
yeah. Like the Jim Jeffries thing. Like we live in a society. Yeah. You're a member of the society.
We're not fucking animals.
You're not fucking animals. So I say that, and she looks at me. And like with this whole like super Long Island, finger pointing, like right now I am the most important person on this fucking plane. That's exactly what she said to me. So one, drunk me is like, you're not important at all. But then like drunk me is also like, we're not even on the plane anymore. We're on the jet bridge.
You're not important on your own plane.
Yeah. So my response, verbatim, is, lady, you could die on Christmas and your family would step over your body to open their presents. So this becomes a thing. You can see like people turn around. Like, first off, how did this drunk piece of shit say that and not stutter? Because I stutter normally.
We're professional insulters, man.
Yeah.
You will never go toe to toe with us.
There was never like, I will find that one thing that you know in your heart of hearts hurts your feelings when people mention it, and it's gonna come out. I've once said to somebody who was like a beautiful woman, I said, it looks like your toes are trying to eat your toenails, and she never wore sandals around me again. Like
or probably ever.
She probably cut her toes off. So
fucking hell.
So I say this to a woman, and she looks at me, and this is how I feel like you're gonna appreciate this. She looks at me and goes, fuck you, which means she lost. She lost. Right. That's it.
I got nothing else.
You literally lost this entire fight. So then she walked to the back of the line. in my head, I'm like, conquering hero.
Everyone's gonna applaud.
Yeah, I feel like this is the moment. Like, this is the moment. Like, everyone's like, fuck yeah, Dan. Thanks for taking out Karen. So I walk up to the front of the Delta line. I'm not being checked off the plane. The 65-year-old lady is there. And me being me, it's like, I'm real sorry about before. And she just looked at me like I was a monster. Because in my head, I forgot that I'm a 220-pound professional wrestler who's fucking drunk, ruining this woman's Christmas. Like, none of that matters to me. So I start walking to the back of the jet bridge, and Karen's at the end of the line, and she's like furiously texting. And the funny thing I was saying to her is like, after I said the Christmas line, like she went first. Her initial response was like, and like shaking her head like she was getting her shit kicked out of her by a ghost. So I pictured her just texting like the ghost's manager to get him fired or whatever, and she's just texting like furiously. And I walk up and I'm like, I have to say something. I'm like, but you're not going to say something mean.
Sure.
I'm over it now.
Yeah.
So I literally went, hey, have a blessed day. And then she looked, you too. And she goes, oh, what the fuck? Because she realized you said it. Man, what a dime. So I just walked. I ended up, I was there till like almost 1 a.m. waiting for my bags. But that was my...
That's fucking horrendous.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
Are you glad you got off the plane? Or aren't some people coming back? Or
here's my dilemma. And this is true of... So... I feel like you can appreciate this.
Yeah.
And some people, if you're an independent contractor or not, you can understand what I'm saying right now. There's an investment, right?
Yeah.
So my initial investment for Ireland was shirts. It was hotel stay. Like what happens for me is I put them up and then I get reimbursed. And that's just the way it works for me because it's way easier than being like, hey, can you let me know what my flight plan is like a week before the show? Like I'm someone who needs to know the minute I'm booked on the show what my flight plan is. So I'm like, I'll book it. You guys pay me back. We'll be fine. So by not going, I save myself 3/4 of my expenses.
Right.
Which saves me in the long run, right? Sure, I was going to get reimbursed, but if the shows had been canceled, which they did end up getting canceled. Did they get canceled? All of them got canceled. Since they were canceled, I would have not been reimbursed. I would have just been eating it in Ireland right now. I would have lost all that money. And no fault to the promoter. I'm not going to blame a promoter for not paying me for my hotel stay. They don't have money coming in either. They're not recouping their losses. That's it. Like, I ended up picking up shows for the weekend, so I felt okay about it.
Comedy or wrestling?
Comedy. So Thursday, I did a show Thursday in McGuire's, and I told that exact story. I just walked on stage and started telling the story, and it was like 6 minutes of me just kind of going at I've now trimmed it down to a point, but like me ranting, I think helped a lot of people who were sort of uncomfortable about the coronavirus and who think it was going to ruin their weekend. And I'm like, no, fuck you. I should have been in Dublin. And it started off because I said, I'm like, I'm supposed to be in Dublin this week. And this guy goes, yeah, I see you're not. And I was like, oh, fuck you, buddy. You're going to get it. So I think I yelled at him like, yeah, no, I'm in Bohemia raising money for your shitty lacrosse team. And they all started laughing. And it was all started laughing. It was great. Yeah. I happened to say it in such a way that people didn't write me off the stage. But I mean, I'm happy I'm home because the shows end up being canceled. Ireland ended up being added to the no-fly list. It ends up becoming a bigger problem. If I had been stuck there for 30 days, I would have lost my job. I would have lost a lot. Man. And
it's considered vacation, really, right?
Yeah, they would have said you're taking your time off, which I can't even fault them because it's like if I can't work, you know what I mean? They would have probably worked out a deal with me. They probably would have done something nice for me. Like, it's not, they understand. But at the end of the day, I went on my own time to Ireland to work. I wasn't able to come back. You know what I mean? It sucked because in that moment, like the level of depression I felt by canceling that show, I couldn't even break into words. Like I literally was like, I went and got a milkshake from Shake Shack because I'm a fat fuck. But I literally refused. I didn't know how to deal with it. I couldn't cope with it. And my family, of course, like, it's a good thing you're home. It's like, yeah, is it? Like, New York's way worse than Ireland was. I should have just brought my computer to Ireland and just stayed there for a month. And
I had friends and family would have put you up. But but the way it is, though, too, is like with being a comedian, and this is my point, too, what I was saying earlier, is that if you guys are not, the problem is our creativity has been put on hold, right? Well, the creativity is something we can do, like we're doing this now, extra episodes of the podcast, and I'm so glad I'm doing it instead of one a week, because now I know with my podcast, the format was never have a guest.
Yeah,
it was just me. Let me bang out some stuff. Let me work on my rhythm and how I talk and how I communicate. My stage presence got a lot better since I started doing this podcast. But now I said, you know, let me go out and give something else back to the people. And I think also I know you're in the same boat as me. I don't want to go too much into it in this episode because I'm going to talk to someone else down the line about like how bad you suffer from depression really bad as well as I do. And it's not a boo-hoo moment, everybody out there. So
yeah, I mean, look, there are people that have it. I happen to have it. I deal with it in my ways. I have, the joke is I drink, but that's not why of course. For me, I just eat when I'm depressed. That's really kind of like my biggest one. But like for me, depression is serious. But this is a way of, these type of things are ways of kind of getting out of that funk.
Right.
And like even me making fun of the Delta flight, like if you knew how upset I was in that exact moment, like this, I can't imagine my response right now would make it seem like I wasn't. But like the reason I was yelling at that woman was also as a result of my frustration that I don't get to go to Ireland anymore.
And we deflected in other ways too. And the problem, I think the problem too is if you stump our creativity, then if we can create or if we can entertain, then I think our self-worth drops.
For me, it's being on stage.
Because if I can't make a room full of people laugh, in my fucked up head, well, who am I good for?
Yeah.
Who am I good? Like what? That's all I have. And people, and I've had this conversation before with people, and and if they've argued with me, like I've female comedians, right? And they've given me the stink eye. I'm not going to mention fucking names, but I remember saying in a conversation one time that I'm not attracted to female comedians, and they got offended. And I go, well, let me explain. When I was growing up, I was light speeds ugly, like really, really, really shitty ugly.
I empathize.
Right? I was a fighter, so I never got my teeth fixed. It would have been a waste of money. I just was horrendously ugly, right? But all I had for the ladies was my humor. Like I was always the funniest guy in a room, right? By miles, unless I was in there with my brothers. My two brothers are fucking hysterical.
Yeah, that's the thing. My brothers are funnier than me.
Right? And that's it, right? Yeah. But they just don't
they can't perform it.
They don't want to perform it probably, right? So, but they're funnier than me. So all I had was my humor. Now, I can be around a female who's got a great sense of humor, but there's a difference between a great sense of humor and being extremely funny. So if I'm with a girl that's like really funny, then I'm like, well, what do I have to bring? Because in my mind, I'm still light speeds ugly, and all I have to bring to this relationship is funny.
I mean, I still have my big dick, but otherwise...
You do have that. You do have that. Which, sadly, you took it 9 times already during this podcast.
Yeah, I'm resting the microphone on it now. I can't say the same. Like, I've been attracted... To me, it's... for example, I always want... Like, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a stuntman. Like, it's like
I did too.
Yeah, I had...
Remember the show The Fall Guy?
Yeah.
I used to love that show. Lee Majors, Cole Seavers.
There was I remember there was a music video for one of Metallica's songs. Metallica's song.
The Irish band.
I sing around my head.
Under your bed.
But I think it was one of the songs. They did the stunts for their music video. They did their own stunts for the music video. And they would like Lars Ulrich like dove through a window and like whatever. All these things. Now it's like, fuck, that's cool. I met a girl who was a stunt person, and because I was someone who used to run up the walls and do moonsaults and like backflips, and I met this person.
Still not the you do like some of the craziest shit in the ring. Like you don't look like you could pull off a fucking extremely well backflip and stuff, but you really fucking nail it. It's very impressive.
My friend's kid is a gymnast, and she did a back handspring. And it was like crooked. And I'm
What's a back handspring?
So back handspring is basically like when you're as if you're going for a backflip, right?
Yeah.
But you use your hands as a brace. You kind of pop off your shoulders, which is where the spring comes from.
Right.
You're using your shoulders to pop you up and then land flat, so your feet are together. And she was going over a little crooked. I'm like, you're going a little crooked. Like, you should be looking back. Like, don't be afraid to look straight back. And she goes, what do you mean? And so I just did it. And she looked at me and she went, what was that? Like, because like my gut fell out of my shirt when I did it. Like, it was awful. Like, but I did I'll pretend it was perfect, but it's not perfect. It was just straight. It was straight back. Yeah. And so I'm like, just look back. I'm like, trust yourself. Like, you have the height. And so she ended up doing it. And it was like, oh, that's great. But nobody expects that out of me because I'm also, if you ever see me at shows, I'm not like a run around energetic. Like, I'm very low key. I'm sitting, my legs are always crossed. I'm just a fat piece of shit. But then, I think actually John Ziegler, I surprised him too because I'm actually surprisingly quick, and no one expects that out of me.
Right, comedian John Ziegler.
Comedian John Ziegler. And I was talking about how you can go from standing to like a sidearm triangle standing, and it's like you just pushing the trap. And I'm like, look, you just pull on a tricep, and he's like, wow, you really? I'm like, yeah, like I know what I'm doing. Like I can actually wrestle, and people are like, wow, like people get surprised.
You're also smaller than the average wrestler, meaning that you wouldn't expect you to do not only the flips but the strength. Like I'll be talking to somebody at one of the clubs, and out of nowhere I'll just get lifted up like a baby from behind
by your armpits.
By my armpits.
I call it Simba.
What the fuck?
It's when you Simba people. If you walk up to somebody and you're like a strong enough person, you can put your hands in their armpits and just pick them up, like so you extend your arms. I'm like showing Mick the visual. It's a podcast, but you extend your arms over your head, so you're picking them up like Rafiki picked up Simba.
Yeah.
So I just Simba people. So I Simba like Dennis Rooney, who's like a real
Jesus. What 6'2"?
He's like 6. He's probably like 6'3". Yeah, 6'3", almost 3.
300 pounds.
Yeah, but I can press him up. And
that's insane, man.
People just stare at me like, what the? It's like,
yeah, Rooney's a big boy.
But the problem, but it's also like people pick up, right? Like if you told me to move sheetrock, like I'd struggle.
Okay.
I'd struggle because it's not, it's body, it's muscle memory.
Muscle memory, yeah.
I understand how to pick people up. I don't understand how to pick up other things, right? So that's why it's just, I'm one of those people that you would never expect what I could do. I have a t-shirt I sell on prowrestlingtees.com/Team Tremendous. Called it says better than you think I am. It's just it's just a stupid slogan that I put on a shirt one day, but it's that idea of like, wait, like hold on a second, you can do, and it's like, yeah, that's the cool thing. Things I can't do, make money apparently. I'm broke, but everything else seems to be pretty
good. With the comedy shows cancelled, how far advance are your wrestling shows cancelled?
Up until June. Right now,
June as of right now.
Yeah, well, so I was at WrestleMania is the end of March, beginning of April. So it's that week. So WrestleMania is like an event, and
of course, it's like the Super Bowl of wrestling, right?
Right, but imagine if the Super Bowl had like miscellaneous minor league football games going on around the same time that drew huge crowds.
Yeah, of course.
So that's what WrestleMania does. It brings in these events. Like a Just for Laughs comedy festival has like the main show and then subsidiary shows around it.
New faces they call it, which is basically open mics.
Yeah. So that is essentially what it is, except that you can have, I wrestled last year. I'll say in New York, I wrestled in front of probably I had like a hardcore match in front of like 4,000 people, 3,500, 4,000 people.
Nice.
And you're like, oh my God, like that's crazy. WrestleMania was supposed to be in Tampa this year. And I had 3 shows. I had a comedy show. I also had I do interviews for a company called High Spots Wrestling Network, and I interview wrestlers and other wrestling oriented people on the show. And so I had those interviews lined up. I had like 6 interviews lined up. So it's a lot of money. That was a lot of money. That's my mortgage. My mortgage payment was that weekend, and we found out 3 days ago that WrestleMania has been canceled in Tampa, and they're moving it to host it only in the Performance Center.
So wait, WrestleMania, the event is not canceled?
The show is not canceled. The event is.
So where are they going to have the show though?
At a Performance Center. So WWE
they moved to open top arenas.
Yeah, they moved from a football stadium.
Maybe 21. Was it WrestleMania 21 or
no? Pontiac Silverdome they did in
WrestleMania 3.
WrestleMania 3, and that was a huge arena.
So this is WrestleMania what 30? Because I kind of bailed on it.
I don't even know.
I kind of went back into it when I befriended Mick Foley, and and I got. And I had kind of pretended to be into it more than I was, just so I have some, because me and Mick Foley, we drove around Ireland together, and he talked about wrestling, and I kind of wanted to be, I didn't want to into like oh yeah, that
you want to be aware of what he was talking about.
Yeah, you wanted to be kind of in the loop almost, or read the cliff notes of it. So it's what, WrestleMania what now?
35, I guess. I don't even know.
35.
I don't know the numbers.
So where are they're going to perform? But is there going to be an audience?
No.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's really fucked up.
That's going to be weird.
They've made it 2 nights long now, and they're doing no fans. They can't do fans because of the way it worked.
Of course.
But it's like a huge thing. One of the things we do is called WrestleCon. It's a company of High Spots, right? Puts it together. Like they up until I think yesterday, they were still on the hook for the hotel bill because they signed a contract that says well, we're still willing to host the event just because you can't anymore because WrestleMania moved. That was like $130,000 they were on the hook for, and you're like, that's just one of the hotels, and you're like, Jesus Christ, like that's crazy. Like this whole thing is like, it's shut down life for a lot of people.
Do you think that the WWE should have maybe pushed it back, postponed?
Here's a problem.
I know it's March and it's like, but like if the Pope can cancel,
well, here's the issue that they have.
Guys, Jesus is not coming back this year because of the coronavirus. Fuck it.
But here's what I'll say about this: the issue isn't that they couldn't have postponed it; they could have. The issue was, when were they going to do it, and they had no answer. And when they have no answer, in their perspective, they're like, what are we doing?
But they have a pay-per-view every month too.
They have a pay-per-view every month, and they're already concerned they're going to have to move the May pay-per-view is going to be canceled. They already think the June might be canceled. There's a lot of concern that no one knows how far out this is going to go. So when you have WrestleMania, which is supposed to be in this big open-air stadium, you then need to move it into another and back into that Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium. When are they available again? You know what I mean? Like,
you can't just call them up and say, "Hey, get rid of that football game."
You can't do it in the fall, right? Because now it's football season. You can't, you end up having a lot of problems come up. So I think that the issue came down to like, well, if we can't run it, we're gonna have to postpone it. And if we don't know when we're gonna postpone it, we might as well just run it and then make something else bigger. So maybe SummerSlam would be bigger this year, or maybe Survivor Series will be bigger this year. Maybe there's a lot of things that you could do, but.
So what are they doing with their Monday Night Raws and their SmackDowns?
They're all being taped from the same performance center with no fans.
Which the audience is like, I could go to a comedy club and live stream a comedy show right now, but without that audience, man, there's an energy that no matter what, like, and
it's
that's
awful.
But that's why I think of wrestling and comedy, and you would notice more than anybody, but I only notice based on talking to you. And the only other I don't know Kurt Hawkins. You introduced me to him, Dolph Ziggler, whatever those. But I kind of, the only other wrestler apart from you that I would know is Mick Foley. And from the stories he was telling me when we traveled together, it's like wrestling and comedy are very parallel in relation to. It's got its open micers, it's got its guys who are climbing the ladders. The money is shit when you start off. The same shit with hotels. You travel with other comics, you travel with other wrestlers, but like. And the same thing is, like, and I had heard an interview, or he told me, I think Mick Foley told me that those open air venues sometimes are harder because when people cheer and scream,
noise goes up.
That noise leaves the arena and the wrestler doesn't get the feedback.
That's all, like, we live by Nassau Coliseum. Nassau Coliseum is called the Barn, and when the Islanders were playing real well, it was called Rockin' the Barn because they make so much noise there to feel like the building's shaking.
Okay.
You don't get that in open air.
Air
goes up.
Everything goes up. And same with it, when you perform at a theater, you don't just, like, if I was at, which I've done, like Westbury, which is I think 3,500 people, I don't know, I could be making that number up, but it's a lot different in a club. Like, your timing has to stay different because you have to wait for that laughter to hit you.
Well, that's it.
So but like wrestlers though, we perform based on the energy we're getting. Like, my show is much better if the audience are into it. If I see the audience are, let's say it's a private event, they didn't know it was a comic, they didn't want a comic, and I go up there, if they're giving me nothing, I'm not one of those guys who are so professional, or dare I say hacky, that will just barge through. If I want to make that connection with the audience, so the energy comes at me is the energy I'll give back. So wrestling is similar to that, or am I wrong?
Wrestling's harder. Like,
I'm sure.
Wrestling's harder from a reaction point of view because, okay, so as a comedian, we can sneak in like a drink when they have a good laugh. When they have a long laugh, I can get a drink of water.
Take a pause, reset.
Right.
Yeah.
But all I need is as long as it takes me to grab the bottle, put it to my lips, take a sip, put it back down, swallow, go.
Right.
Wrestling, you are physically running, sprinting, doing everything, every aerial, acrobatic, whatever you want to call it. People want to call it fake, that's fine. The end of the day, it's just we're running, sprinting, we're doing every physical activity in the world you can, and you need what we call the rest break, which is the moment where you can kind of lay there, get your wind back, and then go into the next sequence.
Right.
How we do that is we get crowd response. If we can get a crowd response, the crowd will carry that moment. And I can get 30 seconds of breathing.
Is that a long time?
That is the longest time in the world. You don't even realize how long that feels like until if the crowd's quiet and you're sitting there.
You'll probably do a double clothesline, you knock each other out, or you'll
some
hit
big moment where you're down, the crowd will chant holy shit, or they'll start clapping or whatever.
You'll do a big move that looks like, and probably does, injure both of you guys.
Right.
Okay.
And there's also moments where, like, as a wrestler, like, you take a move and you know it hurts. It hurts a lot. And and you need that moment of like, give me a minute. So the heel or whoever, the bad guy can go like get the crowd to boom.
Right.
So you can get like your wits about you for a second, and then you're back in the game. And it's 10 seconds, maybe 8 seconds. It's really not that big long of a time, but it's long enough that you feel like, okay, I'm good. Okay, let's go. Now take that away. Take it away because there's no crowd. There's no one to heckle to. There's no one to work to.
Shit.
So now you are compressing everything. You're running the risk of injuring yourself in front of 0 people, and no one's going to appreciate it. People watching at home or passively watching. There are people who are watching and glued in, but like TV shows, like TV networks hope people leave the channel on and just go do other stuff. That's what they want because people, advertisements and... the more viewers who are tuned in for commercials, the more money they can make from commercials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they don't want an active like flipper. They want someone to have it on passively and just have it on. You lose that ability. You lose that ability to take that break, to take that quote unquote drink of water, that sort of moment to relax, to get back into it, or calm yourself, or reset yourself and go again. And your adrenaline wears down when you don't have anyone rooting for you.
I mean, I don't want to go too much into wrestling because there's some people that genuinely don't like wrestling, but let's go back like to the history of at least WWE. How many great matches were only made because of the crowd? Right? Like Hogan and Andre. Hogan and Rock was my next one, right?
Yeah, Hogan Rock, I think
there was nothing without the crowd.
Yeah.
That whole thing where they had that stare down that looked for 1,000 hours, and Rock would look off to the left, then he would look off to the right, and while he was doing that, Hogan would go the opposite direction. And I don't even know if that was planned. That was just so, and that wouldn't have been a match without the crowd.
Here's what I want. There's two.
Isn't that an anniversary now of the Rock and Hogan?
I don't know. I don't think I know what dates. I barely know my middle name some days. Here's what if you're listening to this podcast and you want to get an example of what I'm talking about. Look up Hogan Rock WrestleMania
18.
Whatever. You can just put that in. There's only one. And then watch it on mute. And tell me that feels the same.
I get it.
There's also something called Creed Shreds. So what it is only when the camera's on each of the things, they play the instrument that's on. So it's just, I'll show it to you in a while. But like, watch Creed Shreds. That's the atmosphere the ring sounds like when they're wrestling. It's just when something's there, you hear it. Otherwise, you don't. And then now you can understand how awkward it gets. And now you're cutting promos. And the thing about cutting promos are talking to the crowd, right? Now you're talking only to the home audience. Except you need a microphone because that microphone is translating into a soundboard that's going to the camera. So you're talking in a microphone.
It's going to echo.
No one.
It's going to echo.
It's just awkward. I think they've worked on the reverberation so you're not really hearing. But like, imagine having a one-on-one conversation with somebody and then having to hold a microphone and give it to somebody in front of you. And like this, this moment's a podcast. I'm well aware it's being recorded, but like,
but those big WrestleMania moments now are going to be like wasted. Like someone returns because it's that pop, right? When someone comes back who's been
this
out
year was
for years
Edge's first real match back, and he had retired in 2011. And then you have Brock Lesnar wrestling, you have Goldberg wrestling, you have all these big names wrestling for 0 people.
It's almost like did you ever Google go onto YouTube and watch The Big Bang Theory without laughter?
Without laughter, yeah.
It's so awkward.
Because that's the word.
It's so uncomfortable.
But that's the thing. It's not... honestly, I'll say this, whatever. I'm not trying to shit on Big Bang Theory, although I'm not a fan, but it's not funny without that crowd. It's not.
Yeah.
Those moments of like awkwardness, like where someone makes a face, it's just like... No, that's it. Did you ever go to a bathroom at a comedy club and the speakers running in and you don't hear the laughter, you just hear the jokes? You hear like the laughter. Weird. Sometimes you'll hear the laughter of like the front row, maybe, and that makes it even worse to me. It makes worse to me because it's just like you hit this big joke and all you hear is like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing. It's one thing if like you don't hear laughter. It's not like if you hear like one person like, I think it's hilarious. It's like when you at McGuire's, you just pee in McGuire's and you can't hear the crowd from where the men's room is, and that's sort of the...
You just heard a bit. All right, man. I guess we'll leave it at there. I hope things pick up for everybody's sake, and especially for you, since you've got 2 careers you're trying to manage that are all only based on if a crowd turns up for wrestling and, of course, comedy. Where can people find you?
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, the Dan Barry, TheDanBarry. Don't put Berry. I know I have somewhat of an accent. And then you can go to Pro Wrestling Tees, TEES on that .com/team tremendous, all one word, all lowercase, and you can get some of the merch that we sell and t-shirts and stuff like that. And otherwise, stay home, wash your hands, don't be a piece of shit.
All right, man. Thanks so much, guys. Check out Dan Barry. Check out his wrestling on YouTube as well. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a lot of fun. Thanks again for listening, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Any comments, concerns, send them to my Instagram, Mick Thomas Comedy. We'll talk to you again soon.
Send nudes also.
Also, send nudes. I'll pass them on. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Good luck to you. Be safe. Love one another. Be healthy. All the best. It's the Mick Thomas Podcast Show.